Lycia are one of the best Darkwave bands out there, so I'm going to be looking at my 3 favourite albums by them. So let's do it. Welcome to ByCandlelight, beaming goth, darkwave and post-punk straight into your brain, like a gothic laser of goth. So today I'm going to be looking at the band Lycia, what makes them great, and then 3 of my favourite albums. So Lycia formed in 1988 and consists of Mike Van Portfleet, Tara Vanflower and David Gallas. So they released 11 main albums along with some side project releases, compilations and live recordings. Their sound is immersive, often melancholic, with ethereal soundscapes. Mike's almost whispered voice is counterbalanced perfectly by Tara's otherworldly siren-like vocals. Dip into any of their albums and you will be cocooned in atmosphere like a dark, warm bath. So choosing a top 3 was always going to be tricky because pretty much all of their albums are essential. But if you're looking to dip your toe into said warm bath, you can't go wrong with these 3 masterpieces. So in order, and at number 3, we have Efflickers. Efflickers was released in 2018 and is, to date, their most recent album. It marked a 3rd album release in what I would say was a flurry of activity, beginning with 2013's Quiet Moments and then followed up by A Line That Connects in 2015. I say flurry because before Quiet Moments, their last album was 2003's Empty Space. Anyone familiar with Lycia will recognise the trademark wall of sound on Efflickers, along with the desolate synth pads, the distant drum machines and the affected guitars. But there's a lot more going on here. The opener and title track changes time signature from 3/4 to 4/4 halfway through, and this is something that you don't expect Lycia to do. So you already get the sense that the band are extending their wings past the ethereal landscapes of old. We get another surprise on A Failure, which has almost a synth pop feel to it, a drum machine that skips along, and a synth bass and lead that should be incongruous to the band's established sound, but it isn't, because this is Lycia and they're masters of what they do. We're in familiar territory with the next 3 songs as they build the trademark layered atmospherics, particularly on the funeral march feel of the track 25 Years. Then we are once again pulled from this dense and immersive backdrop straight into the synth-driven track Mist. This breaks up the album nicely and it's great to hear this level of variety in their sound. The track Rewrite is wonderfully heavy and dirgy, with all these layered guitars and a really prominent bass line. And the album ends with the beautiful Autumn into Winter, with some beautiful guitar work from David. For me, this one has a similar feel to one of my favourite Nephilim tracks, and There Will Your Heart Be also. All in all, this is a solid album from a band who are willing to try new styles whilst retaining their trademark sound. It's also great that their most recent album is right up there in terms of quality. At 11 albums in, this bodes well for hopefully more future releases. So at number 2, we have the album Cold, released in 1996. Opening track Frozen perfectly sets a mood that is not broken for the entirety of the album. What follows is a run of tracks that are up there in terms of being the band's absolute best, starting with the track Bear, which is wonderfully ethereal with some lush guitars and a great bass line. This is followed by the funeral-like Baltica, which has these ringing bells every few bars. The meandering but simple piano part, along with the sustained guitars, will totally transport you to a different time and place. Oh, getting goosebumps now. Again, we get Tara's haunting voice that lures you into this world that, to my knowledge, no other band can create. By the time you reach the track Colder, you're fully immersed and well under the Lycia spell. Snowdrop cycles around beautifully and it lulls you into this dreamlike state that is not of this world. Drifting has some of the most gorgeous chords, and Mike's whispered voice is just at the right level to underpin a really beautiful and effective guitar line. After a mellow intro, December does make you jump at about a minute and a half in with some quite dramatic piano chords. You're not entirely ready for this, so for me, this one just breaks the atmosphere probably just a little bit too much. But in its own right, it's still a great piece of music. Saying that though, it does lead nicely into Polaris, which has some discordant moments over a dark and brooding backdrop. A masterclass in Darkwave, this album is bleak, beautiful and overwhelming in equal measure. So my number one will come as no surprise to Lycia fans. It is The Burning Circle and Then Dust. Released in 1995 as a double album, it was subsequently remastered in 2006 as an 18-track version. Thankfully, it was remastered again in 2023 in its full 26-track form. This album is vast, but it is an absolute classic and is therefore essential listening. This album bounces between ominous and almost shoegazy elements, too lengthy to tackle track by track. These are my highlights. The Dust Settles Part 2 is just a minute and a half of pure dark bliss with a wall of affected guitars. The Dust Settles Part 3 almost has a folky intro before launching into some hazy, shoegazy guitars. Possibly their most famous track, Pray, is blissful and is underpinned with Mike's trademark whisper. Slip Away sounds like it was recorded in a vast cave. It's so immersive is the reverb. Backed with the cosy sound of rain, August Part 1 is another one of those funeral march type tracks that is entirely instrumental. Although 9 Hours Later skips along in terms of its rhythm, its reverb effect on everything else stops this from feeling out of place. The track Nimble is far from nimble, and it's another one of those that just cycles around with Tara's beautiful voice cutting through the music. She does it again on Surrender, an even more sedate but no less enthralling song. These Memories Pass sets the mood with synth pads and a simple piano part, and then we're joined by Mike's trademark whisper about 2/3 of the way in. This whole album is an immersive experience, and it's really hard to dip in and out of, and I think that it should just be played in its entirety. Turn off all of the lights and just play this album all the way through. It will gently move you to another plane of existence, and that is why this is my number one. So those are my top 3 favourite Lycia albums. At the moment, this may change in a month or a year. I find that I quickly run out of adjectives when describing this band, so I would definitely recommend checking them out for yourself. For me, Lycia are at their best when they establish a mood or an atmosphere and do not let that go for the entirety of the album. But like, how crazy does that sound? Normally you want variety on an album, but such is Lycia's ability to craft atmosphere and mood that you just want to stay absorbed in the world that they've created. There is no other band like Lycia, and I know that I just could not live without these albums. If you know and love this band, please let me know your top 3. If you're new to Lycia, please do go and check them out for yourself. I will leave a bunch of links below. Until next time, see you later.